Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Mukuch podcast.
This show was created to shine a light on the realness of being an entrepreneur. Why organization is not a one-size-fits-all, why you need to give yourself grace, and so much more. The G.L.O.E podcast aims to provide motivation, inspiration, or encouragement for you to keep going after your dreams. I'm your host, Angel. Sit back and prepare for valuable tips, resources, laughs, and so much more. If this is your first time here, welcome, and thanks for joining. If you've been hanging around for a while, welcome back, and I hope you brought a friend. A plane cannot take off if it has too much baggage. Same with people. We cannot grow if we are unwilling to forgive or letting fear get in our way. This is why I wrote Fear and Forgiveness, a 16-day devotional and fasting journal. The first part of the book talks about fasting, fear, and forgiveness. The second part is a 16-day devotional. Each day comes with a story, a Bible verse that relates to the story, reflection questions, and a prayer. This book was created for anyone who is tired of letting fear and unforgiveness weigh them down. Fear and Forgiveness is available on barnesandnobles.com or at themodcosc.com. Order your copy today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode. Today, I am talking with Larisa Makuch. Larisa is the CEO and founder of Abundance Academy. She empowers professional women to break free from self-imposed traps and achieve their dreams with clarity, confidence, and conviction. Larisa's diverse professional background spans personal finance, movement education, photography, sales, and corporate management. She now employs her expertise as Canada's leading abundance mentor. Larisa is a sought-after speaker and author of the recently released book titled Stop Procrastinating Your Life Away. Discover the secrets to more time, money, and freedom. She works both one-on-one and in group settings to show women how to double their income and positively impact the world, all while loving themselves, their businesses, and their lives. In her downtime, you'll find Larisa creating magic in the kitchen, tapping into nature in cottage country, and living her active and best life with her husband and young son. Everyone, let's welcome Larisa. Hi, Larisa. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Angel. I'm so excited to be here.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to chat with you. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we get started?
Well, the Stop Procrastinating Your Life Away book is released, and sometimes God gives us opportunities. And I think so often we don't know what those opportunities are. Some of the things I learned writing my book, I had so many more blessings afterwards. And I think anyone listening to this particular podcast, we're going to be talking about some very exciting things like decision. This is going to be a blessing in disguise.
Okay. I'm excited. All right. Well, before we fully dive into it, you said that you like to create magic in the kitchen. So are you a baker or a cooker? What kind of magic are you creating?
I take the stuff out of the fridge, I stick it all on the counter and see what I can do with it. I don't know what to do, but my husband's like, why do you take everything out of the fridge? Because I don't know what I want to make until I touch the food, until I see the food. And so I am not good at cooking meat. I'm very good at making salads and magical random creations. So,
okay. I like that. My husband has actually been doing that lately. He doesn't take everything out, but he'll go and he'll look to see like what we have in the pantry or what we have in the fridge. And then I think he downloaded an app or something on his phone and he'll like type in the ingredients that we have and it'll give him recipes. So we found like a couple of cool recipes like that. The other day we made a Cajun shrimp lasagna pasta, but instead of like layering it like you do lasagna noodles, you cook the lasagna noodles and then you cut them down the middle so that they're like long and thin. And then you just toss them into the pasta. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And we got to use stuff that we had sitting in our pantry. So I like that. So cool.
I've never heard of it. So thank you to your husband for his ingenious efforts.
Yeah, you're welcome. I will let him know. It was really, really good too. We did add like a couple little extra things in it, but it was so yummy. So yeah.
Google definitely helps create even more magic in the kitchen because sometimes when you're missing that one ingredient or you're like, I want to make this recipe, but something's not quite right. Or what do I substitute? Mm-hmm. I don't know what I did before. I think I had a lot of stress in the kitchen looking through all the cookbooks because I'd pull out 10 cookbooks and try to find the recipes.
Yes.
We still have a few, but there's only like 2 I really go to.
Yeah, that's me. I have a whole bunch of cookbooks and I'm like, oh, let me pull it out. And then I'm like, why does this have 15 different ingredients in this? I do not feel like doing this. So the cookbooks are for, I guess, a special occasion when I really feel like I have the time to do it. So, yeah. And how old is your son?
He is 6 going on 7.
Okay. My son is 8 going on 9. So around the same age there.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Well, Larisa, so how long have you been an entrepreneur and how did you get started? I know you've dabbled in a few different things, but give us a little background.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. So I would say I've been by accident an entrepreneur since I've been about 12 years old.
Okay.
And it started when I was younger and I would make these beaded necklaces. And they're Ukrainian necklaces, like G.L.O.E. So they're like really intricate, really fancy necklaces. And I used to make them and sell them at festivals and community functions. And I remember I'd bring in a few $100s every time I went to one of these. And when you're 12 years old, that's pretty good money back then.
Yeah,
And
you're
so
rich.
that was actually, and I didn't, until this week, I didn't even think of it. That was actually probably one of my first entrepreneurial ventures. I really learned how to be comfortable having these interactive opportunities and asking people for money when I used to do fundraising for school and for dance and for band. And I never thought much of it, but that actually did lay the foundations for everything else I did. And there's been so many random different opportunities that have come up over the years, and they are presented to you when opportunity knocks. It's up to you to say, yeah, I'm going to listen, or just shut the door.
Okay. Okay, I like that. So 12 years old. So we started with the beaded necklaces, and then where did we go from there?
So when I graduated from high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I think a lot of people have that experience. And so I ended up finding an opportunity to work in the world of personal finance. So I actually became a financial advisor. I didn't really know how to talk to people. I understood how money worked. My first financial book I read was when I was 8 years old. And so, yeah, it was a wealthy barber and I wanted to make an investment with somebody. And she said, I will invest your money in trust, but I'm not going to do it if you don't actually educate yourself. Otherwise, that's irresponsible of me. So I read my first financial book cover to cover back then and started really practicing these principles over time. And so I finished high school, got into the world of personal finance. And then from there, we dove into real estate. We started buying, fixing, and flipping houses. And then we actually moved across the country to pursue other real estate projects and ventures. And that was really exciting. While there, I had a pole dance home party business where, I know. I had no idea. It just, another one of these things that fell in my lap. So we would bring poles into women's houses and do birthday and bachelorette parties. And so it was really fun. I got to learn so much about women and how different dynamics played out in recreational settings.
Yes.
Let's say that. And yeah, so the business grew. I had some women that were working for me and holding parties. So I initially started just on my own, and then I would contract other people out because the business grew. And when I think over time, it just was something I chose not to do. I ended up leaving that business. And in 2008, time flies.
Yeah,
I ended up moving to Toronto, and I'd lost my husband. I just didn't want to keep doing the parties. I didn't want to keep running that part of the business. And so I moved here and I retrained in the world of Pilates. And I initially became a Pilates instructor as a teacher. And it was fun for a year or two, but something in me was like, I love business. I love creating things. I love seeing opportunities grow. And so I started finding opportunities just naturally within the company. And then eventually the owner wanted to hire me to do more business type roles. And then she eventually promoted me to run the company alongside her. So that was also a really beautiful opportunity. So it wasn't my company, but I basically treated it like my own company for many, many years. And so that was also a beautiful, beautiful opportunity. So that was in the Pilates space. We had an integrated health clinic. There was also an international teacher training program. So there was a lot of different varieties. So it was almost like 3 different businesses in the one, and taught me so much.
Okay. All right. Cool. I love that. And so with the different businesses and the different ventures that you've done, obviously a lot of decisions and a lot of decision making comes along with that. And so decisions, sometimes they can be easy, such as, well, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I struggle with what I want to eat for dinner. So I won't say as easy as, what I want to eat for dinner, but sometimes decisions can be, as easy as, do I go left or do I go right? Or they can be like super tough as, okay, do I let this go? Do I hold on to it? And so how do you go about making those tough decisions? And why do you think that people avoid making tough decisions, even if it's necessary?
Yeah, I think maybe why don't we start with why people avoid making tough decisions? Because
Okay.
so often when I would say there's three main reasons people avoid making tough decisions. First, they just don't know how.
Okay.
I don't know about you, but my mama did not teach me how to make a lot of decisions. Like she taught me how to make some decisions, like what to have for dinner and things like that.
Right.
But beyond that, there wasn't a lot of sophisticated training in making decisions that impact your entire life. And that was not taught in school. So it's a basic fundamental skill everyone needs, and it's not taught. And so what happens when you have to make a decision? You freeze and you freak out. Why? Because you don't even know what to do. And so many people are afraid of making a decision. So they just avoid making a decision, which is in and of itself a decision. And when you look at it, there's a little tiny part of the brain called the amygdala. And this is the part of the brain that's designed to protect us from danger. And so when you feel like you're in danger, as in, I have to make a decision and it might be the wrong one.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain is perceiving that like you're being eaten by a lion, tiger, or bear. Now, if you are being chased by a lion, tiger, or bear, you want to run. But if you're not, you actually have to face it.
Yeah.
And pull up your big girl panties and make it.
Right.
So
Kind of like that fight or flight thing.
Totally. And so when it comes to decisions, the more you practice them, the easier they get. Why? Because you actually have a skill. Decision making is a skill. And so people just don't know how. And so of course they get intimidated. When you don't know how to do something, of course you're going to be intimidated. If I said, go do a podcast, you'd be like, yeah, I could do that. With my eyes closed and hands tied behind my back. If I said, go talk to 30,000 people today, you might think about that twice and be like, okay,
yeah,
what am I gonna say? Like, can I really do this? There might be a little more hesitation.
Right. And at least give me 24 hours to do it.
Like to think it through. But most people, they freeze. And so the second thing is they lack clarity. They don't know what they want.
Okay.
And because they don't know what they want, they can't make a decision. If you don't know where you're going, if you don't actually program the end destination into your GPS, how are you going to know where you're going?
Okay.
And I think so often people live life by default instead of by design. And if they don't have a clear plan, they can't say, is this in alignment with the plan? Yes or no. It makes decision-making really simple and straightforward. And then the third thing is they're just energetically misaligned. They might intellectually want to do something. They might be like, yes, this makes sense, but my heart is screaming and something is saying, this is wrong. Or maybe they have a lot of open loops. They have a lot of unfinished business. And so there's a lot of messes or a lot of weight or heaviness around them. So it's like they can't see the forest through the trees. There's just so much clutter. And it's almost like their energy, their time, their money, their energy is being pulled in many different directions. And when you're frantic, you can't actually make good decisions. You need to be in a fairly calm and orderly state. And so it really is about those three things. You got to learn how, you got to have clarity, and you've got to get yourself together.
Okay.
Right? When you have those three things, you don't need to avoid making tough decisions. But I think a lot of people just naturally avoid making them because those three things aren't dealt with. And as soon as they are, they have the ability and the capacity to do something.
Okay. I like that. All right. Is that what, when you're faced with a tough decision, is that kind of the process that you work through?
Well, those are the things. Those are like the first checkpoints. Like, so I've got tools that I use in order to make decisions. But if those things aren't aligned, it doesn't matter what tool I use because it's not going to work. It's almost like that's the foundation. If you have bad soil, you're not going to grow a nice garden. You might grow something, but it's not going to get you the result that you actually desire. It's like plugging another hole in a leaky bucket. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they need to learn to make effective decisions. But they don't even think of that as a basic skill set. They're like, I need to learn marketing. I need to learn how to speak on camera. I need to learn how to improve my sales systems. I need to make sure I improve my client delivery. I need to make sure that my SOPs are in order. I need to check in on my finances. Let me organize this. But they don't really think about some fundamental skills that they may be lacking when it comes to decision making. And when you make effective decisions, it can save you time, money, and energy. It literally frees you for so much good that you desire. There was a trainer. I don't know if you've gone to a lot of seminars. Are you familiar with JT Fox?
It sounds familiar, but
okay.
I'm not.
Yeah. So he's a business trainer. And I went to one of his seminars, and we went to one of those giant seminars, and then he sold us into a smaller seminar. So I did that, and it was really great. He can be intense for some people.
Okay.
However, when you really look at his principles that he teaches, they're quite brilliant. And so he was saying he had some of his students follow him around for an entire day and count how many decisions he had to make.
Oh, okay.
And that was like their task for the day. He's like, you can learn other stuff, but I want you to count how many decisions, and you're going to follow me all day long. And it was hundreds of decisions.
I'm sure.
Most people freak out over one or two decisions, but he was like decision, boom, 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 all day long. And he wasn't drained. Why? Because he knew how to make decisions. Were they all right? I don't know. He doesn't know. But what he did do is make the call, which is what his job is, and which is what our job is as entrepreneurs, to make decisions, to fix problems.
Yeah. And I mean, you said that he made hundreds. You honestly don't realize, I guess, how many decisions you actually make in a day. And it's just little minute things that you wouldn't even think about, okay, do I get out the bed at 9:00 or 9:15? Just small stuff like that. It's crazy to think and to have to actually count someone's decisions for the day. That's very interesting. So how do we build that foundation of learning to be effective decision makers and kind of I guess rolling it into our day and not letting it stop our day or hold up our day? Because I'm pretty sure you've heard, the age old debate of a husband will ask his wife where she wants to go eat at. And it's I don't want this and I don't want that. And it takes, 30, 40 minutes to figure out. So how can we get that time down and be like, okay, this is what I'm doing here?
Yeah. And so the more you practice, the easier it gets.
Okay.
I think there's a couple different tools that I use. And the first thing, ultimately, if you really start tuning into your intuition, your gut knows. That first gut impulse before everything else comes up, before the mental chatter comes up, before the logic comes up, chances are that's your truth. If you actually listen to that first gut impulse, that's your truth. But if you need a more systematic process, then you want to look at maybe what's the best that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? What's likely to happen? Evaluate, make the decision, and just move on. Just like Mel Robbins says, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And you just pick up and make a call. Now, I think what's important is that you take the time to evaluate a little bit. You don't need to take 30 or 40 minutes, but you could take 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And if you've done your homework in advance, then you can make those calls. It's difficult to make decisions if you have zero context or zero basis to make the decision off of. But if you have information about what you're supposed to make a decision off of, if you ask me, Angel, what you should do with your business, and you gave me no history, no background, and you just blank out, ask me a random question, I couldn't, in good consciousness, make that decision for you because I don't have enough information. So you go get the information. And then what's the best that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? What's likely to happen? Decide and move on. I think another thing, when it really comes to looking at your goals, you can also tune into the desires. Another decision-making process or model that I like to follow is asking yourself, is this going to get me closer to or further from my desires?
Okay.
Is this going to actually move me closer to my goals or further away? This is where the clarity piece comes in, because if you don't know what you want, how can you make a decision?
Right.
Do you even want to do it? Do you have it to give? If you don't have it, can you access it? And are you willing to access it?
Okay.
Maybe you don't have the resources to be able to fulfill whatever that decision is. And then you can decide. And if it's a no, then you can simply say no. You don't have to give people reasons for why you're making the decisions. And I think when people are asking you of time, money, or energy, you want to look at your goals and your desires to make sure that the decisions you're making when other people ask you of things are in alignment. Because you're going to have a lot of people asking you for a lot of things. And if it's not, just don't do it.
Right.
No explanation required. Just say, nope, not going to happen. Not able to do it. Have other things planned. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's another issue that a lot of people have too, is that a lot of people have a hard time saying no. So that in turn leads them to overcommitting to stuff. But then also when they do say no, they feel like they have to give an explanation as to why they're saying no. And oftentimes they spend more time trying to think of that explanation to be like, okay, I'm going to say no, but I have to tell them why I'm going to say no. And now you've spent, 20, 30 minutes or an hour trying to come up with a valid reason as to why you're telling this person no, or why you're saying no to this opportunity, when you could have just said no and been done with it and moved on to something else. And so I think that's a very good point, is that no is a complete sentence. It is the only explanation that you need to give. I don't have to explain my no to you. It's a no. Simple as that.
And I love that, because when you were saying no is a complete sentence, that's exactly what was going in my head. No is a complete sentence. N-O, period.
Yeah.
Dot.
Yeah.
And there's a story, or there's a specific time when my husband was working a couple contracts ago, and he was going to take the day off. And he called into work that morning and said, I'm not coming in. And I listened to that. And then he hung up the phone. And I was just beside myself. I'm like, how could you just not show up that day and give no reason and no explanation? He's like, I don't need to give a reason. It's irrelevant. All they need to know is I'm not coming in. It was so hard for me to accept at that point. And that was a really good lesson for me, because it kept coming back, because I would always want to give explanations and reasons. And you don't need to. And I think that's a very common thing that men do much better than women. Men tend not to explain themselves as much. Women want to explain everything. However, if there was one really good quality that men have that they exceed women at, is not having to explain themselves.
Yes, that, and they don't want a lot of details. Like they're perfectly fine with that, because I was so used to having women bosses, and that if you did call out, or if you're like, oh, okay, I need to leave early, they want to know why you need to leave early, and they want to know why you're not coming in. And I remember when I've only had 2 guy bosses, I think, in my whole history of working, and my second to last guy boss, or one day I was just like, I just want to go home for the day. Like I have some stuff that I need to take care of. I can just go home and take care of this. And so, Larisa, I kid you not, I sat there for probably an hour and a half trying to figure out a reason, like something that was valid, to tell him why I was going home. And then finally it hit me. I was like, I wasted an hour and a half trying to figure out a reason to tell him that I'm leaving for the day, when I just want to leave for the day. I was like, nobody else is fine. So I packed up my stuff and I walked by his office and I was like, hey, I'm leaving for the day. I'll see you tomorrow. He was like, okay, cool. Have a good afternoon. It's like, I spent all this time I spent all this time that I could have been at home or on my way home trying to think of a valid reason to tell him that I was going home. And from that day forward, it was just, if I wanted to leave early, I'm like, hey, I'm out of here for the day, or hey, not going to make it in for the day. He's like, okay, see you tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah. And so often saying no to things will free you to be able to say yes to the things that are important. The more you say no to things that are misaligned, the more you get to say yes to things that are aligned. And when you really think of it that way, are your business goals, are your dreams, are your desires more important to you than trying to explain yourself?
Mm. Yes.
Are they more important to you than trying to please someone else? Something else women tend to do. Let's go be a people pleaser. But then your business suffers. You're not generating the income you desire. You are hiring the wrong people. You're doing things incorrectly because you're focusing on the wrong things. And as soon as you can start focusing on what you want, back to clarity, these are not big, complicated concepts, but you've got to have the clarity or you can't make the decision.
Right. Yeah. I like that. Decision making is so important. And, we really do. We spend more time thinking about making the decision than actually making the decision. And of course, some things you do need to really think about the outcomes of it. But some things we spend just way too much time trying to decide what we're going to do when we can just go for it and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some tools that we can use to help us, I don't want to say speed up, but to help us make more effective decisions? I know you gave us the reasons why people avoid making decisions. So what are things we can do to encourage us to make good decisions?
Yeah, I think the first thing is decide to be a good decision maker. When you decide, you cut off. Just decide. Say, I've decided I'm going to be a good decision maker. I've decided I'm going to become a good decision maker. And then practice using the tools. I mentioned one risk. It's based on risk management questions. So one decision-making process is, what's the best that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? What's likely to happen? Pick it up and move on. Practice that 100 times. And you will probably be a very good decision maker. Then everything else you decide on, check in. Is it in alignment with my goals? When other people are asking something of you, check in. Is it in alignment with my goals? Yes or no? If not, just start saying no. Do you want to even do it? Maybe it is in alignment, but maybe you have no desire. Say no. Practice saying no more of the time and practice checking in with yourself. And the more you do it, the easier it will get. So decide you're going to be a good decision maker and practice using those decision-making tools.
Okay. I like that. So you have a book, Stop Procrastinating Your Life Away. So tell us a little bit about that and the thought process behind it. And just, yeah.
So Stop Procrastinating Your Life Away is actually, it's not about procrastination. It is about you. We have a nice chapter on procrastination. However, it really is about you not putting off the most important things in your life. Your goals, your dreams, your desires, you living your best life. We tell our clients, you can live your dream life now. And that's what we encourage everybody to do. So it really is a journey into yourself. It's an opportunity for you to reveal the best of yourself and look at what your truest and deepest potential is. It's an opportunity for you to uncover your vision, your purpose, your goals, to gain more clarity on what it is that you actually want. I think a lot of times we just, like I said, we don't know what we want, but we've never practiced learning what we want. Just like decision making, it's not something we've practiced. We really look at who you need to be, the image you need to hold to show up as your highest and best self. So you can live your dream life now with bells and whistles on. And also how to overcome some of the challenges that are getting in your way. I think so often we get roadblocks, but if we let those roadblocks just stay in front of us and we keep staring at them, they're going to get bigger and bigger. So how do you navigate and move around the roadblocks? How do you literally pick them up and move them out of the way? How do you make roadblocks become so small that they're not an issue anymore? And the more proficient we become at doing these basic things, the better life we have. Because the more aligned we are, the more congruent we are, and the easier things start working out for us. We've been talking about the magic of unseen forces in my group client calls. So every morning at 6:30, I have a group client call that I host, and they're motivational calls just to set people up for the day. And we've been looking at how to tap into the magic of unseen forces. These are things outside of yourself. There's a chapter on it in the book. And it really is beautiful because so often we don't think of the thoughts that we have in our mind as energy. We don't think of certain interactions we have with people or with aspects of our lives as magical forces that we can actually start controlling. And when you start learning to think differently and you put yourself first, you put your desires first, and you have the courage to actually go for it, you're not going to be procrastinating your life away. You're not going to be bitching or complaining or with other people. You're going to be flying high, you're going to be soaring, and you're going to feel better than you ever have before. Like you've got to take that first step and start taking courageous action.
Okay. I like that. Cool. And then you said you have a group too. Can you tell us a little bit about your group and what you all do in there?
Yeah. So my company now is the Abundance Academy, where we work with professional women who have really great lives. They're really successful, but on the inside, they know they're destined for more and they're holding themselves back in usually one or two key areas of life. It's like everything's good except this little thing that I've been avoiding. Okay. And so we help them live their best lives. And so we have motivational calls to kickstart their day. I find when you get a morning routine set, then you literally start to look at life differently. The first thoughts you think about when you wake up and the last thoughts you think about before you go to bed, they dictate your entire future. The first thoughts dictate your day. The last thoughts dictate your sleep. And so we help our clients plant those thought seeds first thing in the morning. So we'll do different book studies or meditations or journaling exercises. So let's just say it's a very versatile process. And it's just a lot of fun. And so I've had so often people, when they come, they start and they're like, how can I invest an hour every morning? And then by the end of the week, they're like, I can't stop this. Like, I feel so good. My week has been so good. Things are just working out for me. And so I used to go to seminars and I'd come home and then a few days later, I'd be right back to where I was, maybe a little bit better, but I invested like 3 days or 7 days in this awesome environment. And I'd come home and I'd be like, oh crap. So The purpose of the morning calls is to not just keep your momentum up, but it's to keep checking in and keep calibrating. Some days you're going to feel like crap, but you know what? You're going to feel better by the time you're off the call. And so that's going to lead to a better day. It might not be way up here, but it's going to be better than when you started. And it's a constant recalibration so that you are moving forward. We have an accountability component so that we all set and are deliberately working on goals. Some are personal goals, some are business goals, but we really have that support to make sure that you are able to achieve these meaningful goals, because you have a beautiful life you want to live and you want to make sure you're constantly moving towards it. And essentially, I call it like a life and business incubator, because we want to make sure that our clients, they truly do live their best lives. Their lives and their businesses are aligned and they can move further, faster when all the checks and balances are in place. So we have tools for business, tools for their personal life, and not everyone does all parts. Some people just dip into different aspects, but we help them come up with a customized plan for what's best for them.
Okay, cool. I like that. Yeah. Routines they're so important. And once you get into it, you really do. You feel good about it and it does make your day. I know I've tried to be more conscious of like not grabbing my phone as soon as I wake up in the morning and, scrolling through or checking my emails or anything like that. And if I do grab my phone, I try to, I have a reminder for the daily Bible verse pops up on my phone every morning. I think at like 5 o'clock in the morning. So if I do grab my phone, I try to click on that notification so that I can read that. And that's like the first thing that I get in my mind. And then the same thing at night, I try to do something positive at night before I go to bed. I get off track sometimes, but I do try to bring myself back to it. And it's a really good habit to have because you do feel a little bit more refreshed and renewed. And you can kind of go back to that throughout the day when you start your day off like that. So
yeah, I love it. I've had other things pop up on my phone, but I haven't heard of the Bible verses. So that would be really cool because you could just do bite-sized studies.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I think it's the YouVersion app that I use, and you can like set your notifications for it to come through. And so I don't get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, but I know that whatever time I get up, that notification will be on my phone for me to look at. So I enjoy doing that. So yeah. Well, Larisa, I have enjoyed talking to you so much today. I've enjoyed learning more about decision making and just small ways and bites that you can improve it. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us before we go?
This has been an absolute pleasure. And I think if you've ever been intimidated, I just want viewers to know or listeners to know that if you've ever been intimidated making decisions, start small, start with something, because the more you do it, the easier it gets. How you do anything is how you do everything. And sometimes people are like, well, I can make little decisions, but I can't make the big ones. Well, make like a little plus decision, then make a slightly bigger decision. And really realize that you're building that decision-making muscle every time you do it. You don't go to the gym and lift the heaviest weight. You go and you build up over time. But when you're conscious of it, when you're saying, okay, I know this is a little decision, but I'm building that muscle. I'm becoming a better decision maker. And this is why I'm here. Then magical things can happen.
Okay, awesome. And so thank you so much for that. And I like the correlation to going to the gym, because I just started going to the gym and I had to put the weights on the smallest amount there. The person who got out the machine before me had it on like 60, and I was like, I will pull something and never come back again. Let me put this down to 10 over here. So I definitely love that correlation there. So how can everyone find you and connect with you if they'd like to connect?
Yeah, if you want to download a free copy of my Stop Procrastinating Your Life Away book, then you can go to stopprocrastinatingbook.com. And you can get access to the free whole book. We're not just doing the first chapter, we're doing the entire book. And this is like a deep dive study into you. So everything's there. We've got some phenomenal bonus resources, but we're giving it away absolutely free because we want to get it into as many hands as possible. And we want to truly transform and change lives all across the globe. So that's the best way to get in touch with me. And then also I'm on social media. We check our direct messages. So Angel, I'm sure you'll be putting all our links below. So feel free to reach out to us on any of our platforms. And if you have any questions, we are happy to answer them.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And that's what you said. The link for the book is stopprocrastinatingbook.com.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll definitely have that in the show notes. I just wanted to make sure that I had it right for myself when I put it in there. So, well, yes, Larisa, you're right. I will have everything definitely linked into the show notes. So thank you again. I have enjoyed this conversation. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You as well. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Modco podcast. I hope that you enjoyed this episode and learned something from it. Be sure to share this episode with a friend, family member, colleague, or anyone you think will enjoy it. Make sure you hit the follow or subscribe button. And if you love the podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcasting app. That helps others to find us and gets us listed in other show recommendations. So you all know that I run on coffee, and so does the show. If you'd like to buy us a coffee, you can do so by clicking on the link in the show notes. Thank you so much, and chat soon.